The history of tea is almost as long as the history of the Chinese nation. China is the original home of tea trees, and the country was the first to use the plant and develop a tea culture. Tea, cocoa and coffee are the three most popular drinks in the world, with tea taking first place. It's said 3 billion cups of tea are drunk every day around the world. The original birthplace of tea is southwest China. There is a cauldron-bottom-shaped area in southwest China which includes the present-day Sichuan province and Chongqing region. This is home to 1/10 of China's population. The place is surrounded by mountains, and being on the banks of the Yangtze River has fertile soil and plenty of water. Mengding Mountain in Sichuan is the original place of Chinese tea. The mountain is covered with clouds and mist year-round, and the slopes are green with tea trees. This is a statue of Wu Lijun, the first tea grower in China. More than 3,000 years ago, artificially planted tea gardens could be found in Sichuan. Legend had it that local Wu spent his life growing tea. A fairy from heaven was touched by him, and they got married and grew tea together. Later generations came to know Wu as the tea god. It is said that this is the hut that Wu rested in when he was out tending his crops. During the Han Dynasty, Sichuan had a tea market. Historic records describe buying tea in Wuyang, Sichuan's present-day Pangshan County. This is an ancient tea tree. Among the Chinese characters written on the bamboo sections unearthed in Hunan are the two characters of Chaling, the present-day Chaling County in Hunan province. Chaling means a valley covered with tea trees. Sichuan was the first place in which tea was grown and drunk. The skills and practice slowly spread into central and southwest China, and soon the plant was grown and drunk in most of the country. China has created its own unique tea culture over thousands of years. Tea drinking was popular in the upper-class society in ancient times in China's Central Plains and southeastern areas. In the Western Jin period, 1800 years ago, tasting tea and serving tea to guests was a custom of some senior officials, which was used to demonstrate that they lived a simple and frugal life. In 493, Emperor Qi Wu even demanded that only cakes and tea were used instead of animals as sacrifices in order to encourage a simple way of life. Well-known tea-growing areas had to supply tea for the emperor to use at memorial ceremonies. In the Tang dynasty, tea spread down to Tibet and other remote ethnic areas. This is the place where ancient tea carriers used to stop for a rest. Here only deep footsteps are seen in the valley. It's believed that about 800 years ago, Chinese tea was taken to Japan by a Japanese monk. 2 decades later, tea was first exported to Korea. In 1610, Chinese tea was shipped to the Netherlands and later Britain. France got Chinese tea from the Netherlands. Today, Britain is where most of the world's tea is drunk. India discovered tea much later, when Londoners brought it to the former colony. India eventually started growing tea, and it was passed down to Sri Lanka and other southeastern countries and Africa. In a word, tea was exported to other countries from China, including the skills of plantation and the habits of tea drinking.
荷兰是最早由中国传过去的，那么然后呢，由荷兰传到英国、法国。英国是现在世界上饮茶是最多的几个国家之一，原来是第1位，现在在第2、第3位吧。那么它的进入呢，到第一道不是到英国的，而是在荷兰，由荷兰再到英国，再到法国，再传到其他国家。那么印度呢，实际上是很晚的，是从英国因为饮茶了，他觉得茶叶很好喝，因此呢，他想就是印度那个时候是英国的殖民地。 因此呢，他就到印度来，因为印度天气暖和了，那个地方到这个地方来发展茶园。因此，印度发展茶园实际上是很晚的，很晚的。然后再到斯里兰卡，再到东南亚国家，然后再到非洲。因为整个中国的这个茶叶的传播呢，应该是从中国出去的，由中国再传往世界各国的，包括种植，包括这个饮茶的习惯。
In the Tang and Song dynasties, the development of the tea industry was at its peak. Tea also became a symbol of people's social status. Study and research of tea started, gradually forming a tea culture. In the Tang dynasty, Liu Yu was well known for his tea drinking, and after writing the book on tea, he became known as the tea saint. The book marked the beginning of the Chinese tea culture, and tea drinking habits started to change. Famous poets and their friends often gathered in tea houses to drink tea while reciting poems or painting. The making of tea things was improved, using fine raw materials, rich colour and varied shapes and patterns, after exchanges took place between China and other countries in Central Asia and Europe. The Tang dynasty not only inherited the fine tradition of culture from former dynasties, but also absorbed the cream of ethnic and other cultures, including Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. The combination formed a unique and complete system. In the Ming dynasty, Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang asked that tea be sold in free-flowing form instead of tea cakes. This was an important change for the tea industry and popularized the drink with the common people. At the same time, books were written on tea culture and the study of tea growing skills. Vessels for drinking tea were also developed remarkably. In the Ming and Qing dynasties, there were many tea houses and wine shops at markets, which inspired singing and dancing, dramas, writing and storytelling. China is a multi-ethnic nation, and the differing cultures influence each other. Tea culture is one such culture. China produces green, black, white, yellow and dark teas. Black tea is fermented, oolong tea or black dragon tea is semi-fermented, and green and scented tea are not fermented. Green tea is grown in almost all of China's tea-growing areas. Oolong tea is mainly found in Fujian, Guangdong and Taiwan. Black tea has been around for many years and is mainly sold in remote frontier places, hence frontier tea or horse tea. China is a large country and each area has its own variety of tea and drinking habits. That's why tea drinking habits are a combination of tradition and local customs. In China, it has become a major part of social intercourse while visiting relatives or friends, on trips or at gatherings. The most unique characteristic of Chinese tea making is the tradition of stir-frying tea with bare hands. Normally, the just-picked leaves aren't fragrant, but their true fragrance will come out after being stir-fried. Stir-fried tea is easy to keep fresh and preserve. There are 4 steps in stir-frying tea leaves: killing green, second green, cooling and stir-frying again. All these are done by hand. This method not only stops the leaves developing an unpleasant smell, it also allows the cook to make sure that they are at the right temperature. The best season for picking tea leaves is spring, which is the start of harvest. This is a tea picking contest held in Longjing village in Hangzhou, Zhejiang province. Tea contests are not only a test of tea pickers' skills, but also shows their confidence in the coming year. It's traditional for tea picking contests to be held every year in China's major tea producing areas. I declare the Westlake Dragon Well Tea Stir-Frying Competition open. Tea stir-frying contests are also held every year. Tea drinking has become an important part of Chinese people's daily life and society. This year's best tea pickers and tea fryers have been decided after a fierce contest and detailed assessment. This has become a grand ceremony in tea producing areas and is the highest honour for local growers. The China Tea Museum is in Zhejiang, home of Longjing tea or Dragon Well tea, China's most famous brand. The exhibits here tell the story of the tea industry of the past several thousand years. Longjing tea is the best green tea. Emperor Qianlong of the Qing dynasty once visited South China in disguise and joined in the tea picking. He also granted 18 tea trees imperial titles. And Longjing tea has been famous throughout China since then. Huangzhou people say Tiger Spring and Dragon Well tea are the best. This is Longjing, or Dragonwell Village, the home of Dragonwell tea. All families grow and stir-fry tea by hand themselves. We follow the tea grower Xu Shunlan to a tea plantation. My family has picked tea for generations. We now have 1/5 of an acre of tea gardens. It takes a lot of skill to pick tea. You must be careful not to crush the leaves, and they must be all the same size. The best time to pick tea is in the morning when dew is still on the leaves and the stems won't turn red. You can't grab the plants too high or you'll crush the leaves, but you can't pick too low because you'll pick stems and leaves together. The standards for the best are 1 bud with 2 leaves that are not crushed and are of the same size.
上来了，你要采到标准1芽2叶，不给它踩碎。茶叶呢要均匀，大小呢基本上差不多，那才是好茶。
Xu Shunlan's husband is stir-frying tea. The freshly picked tea must be stir-fried straight away. Tea growers work hard all year round. Just like in a local children's song, the fragrance of freshly brewed tea is the result of hard work. These tea growers have not only created a new life for themselves, but have also laid a foundation for China's tea culture with their hard work. The Chinese government has encouraged education within the tea industry. The tea department at Zhejiang University has trained a number of senior personnel from the tea industry and has also extensively researched tea's national and cultural characteristics. China's education institutes first offered papers on tea in the 1930s. There are now 9 universities that offer majors in tea. Students can study for bachelor degrees, master's degrees, doctorates, or even postdoctorates.
所以从中国的茶叶教育呢发展到现在，就从本科、硕士、博士到博士后都齐全了。
This is a class on tea art. The tutor is teaching students how to brew and taste tea. When a lady drinks tea, she should hold the cup with both hands. She then takes off the cover to smell the brew's fragrance and uses the cover to push the leaves aside and check the colour. After that, she places the cover on the edge of the cup and sips the tea. A gentleman uses one hand to hold a teacup and sips to show that he's a natural and refined man.
就做3回，然后把盖嵌在茶碗口上，就可以小口品饮。那如果是男士的话，就不需要用双手，要显得潇洒， 就可以用单手拾盖闻香。然后同样劈3下，观看汤色，把盖钳在碗口，单手吃完。所以这样呢，就显得男士的潇洒。
China highly regards the study of tea. Many historical books on the subject have been collected, and many more new books are being written, compiled, and published. China's tea culture is rich and vivid and spans thousands of years. I think it's important to pass on this richness through books. We have 2 tasks before us: to sort out and research the documents on tea left by our ancestors, and to combine traditional and modern tea cultures.
一方面的任务就是要把我们老祖宗留给我们的丰富的茶文化的宝库给它梳理出来，进行研究。另一方面的任务呢，就是要把传统的茶文化和现代的文化结合起来，然后呢要传播开去。
The history of tea is closely related to religion. In the Tang dynasty, the Chan religion was popular. Worshippers weren't allowed to sleep and eat at night, but could drink tea. The meaning of Chan is to sit calmly and meditate. It's easy to fall asleep, so tea is used to keep people awake. In the Tang and Han dynasties, religious sects held important positions in society, and many temples grew, drank, and revered tea. They also had opportunities to research and improve the quality of tea. In fact, some tea brands and habits originated from these temples. China's Taoism started at the Qingchangshan Temple. The place has fresh air, clear mountain springs, and one of the best natural environments. And that's why the tea from its gardens is famous throughout China. Tea production has always been an important part of the temple's income. Tea is also closely linked to Chinese literature. Quite a number of Chinese scholars, historians, monks and Taoists have written of tea, praising beautiful tea gardens, the fragrance of tea, or the comfort of drinking it. Some prose describes the hard work of female tea pickers. These odes are still popular around the country today. This is the home of Su Dongpo, a celebrated scholar during the Song dynasty. The courtyard has a well, a little bridge and running water, ideal surroundings for poets to drink tea and recite poems. It is in this place that Su Dongpo and his sons penned thousands of famous poems. It's said the well-known Qing dynasty novelist Pu Songling also had strong connections with tea. Pu ran a tea house, although he gave, rather than sold, his tea to passers-by. He instead asked each one to tell him a story about fairies or monsters as payment. In this way he collected many stories about fairies, ghosts and monsters, enough to write a book. Tang Dynasty poet Yuan Shan once wrote a poem that only had one character in the first line and 7 in the last. It vividly describes the processes of producing and drinking tea. While working hard in the fields, tea growers sing or dance during their breaks. This is how the subculture of tea songs, dances and dramas was created. The history of tea is almost as long as the history of the Chinese nation. China is the original home of tea trees, and the country was the first to use the plant and develop a tea culture. The tea culture has been created by the Chinese people through generations of hard work. It also shows how the ancient Chinese adapted nature and its resources to benefit them. In Anxi County, South China, the tea industry has become a major source of income. Anxi is hometown of Iron Guanyin, one of the Wulong teas. It's said that in 1736, a strange and fragrant tea tree was found in Anxi. The colour of its tea was dark brown, just like that of iron, and the tree was shaped like the Chinese goddess of mercy, Guanyin. So Emperor Qianlong bestowed upon it the name Iron Guanyin. This brand is well known all around China. Tea has become an important industry for the country's economic development. China's major tea-producing areas are in Zhejiang, Sichuan, Hunan, Yunnan, Fujian, Guangdong, and on Taiwan Island. Entering the tea production areas, we can see some small family workshops where the whole family is helping to process tea. There are also medium-sized tea factories which now use machines for parts of the tea-making process. This large tea factory has made full use of local resources, combining tea processing with modern technology. This is the Tea Exhibition Hall in Anxi County. Anxi in Fujian province is also the hometown of China's largest Wulong tea producer. Local tea growers no longer use ox to plough fields. They know that the old ways of farming can't keep up with modern-day life, so they're using science to grow and create new tea varieties. Modern science has helped form today's new tea culture. The combination of science and technology with traditional tea culture has made China's tea brands even more famous. On the basis of traditional green, black, yellow, oolong and scented teas, China's making many new brands, which are well known at home and abroad. Chinese tea growers are presenting the best tea to drinkers all over the world. As a green food, tea has helped the relationship between man and nature. With the development of new varieties, traditional brands have been improved and explored, making the tea culture more colourful. Tea is a plant, but over thousands of years it has developed into a unique culture alongside the Chinese culture. Children in tea-grown areas grow up with this culture. Pupils at Shiping Village Primary School are having a class on tea art. Along with the usual subjects, these pupils also learn about the tea culture. Smoking is harmful to your health, but drinking tea is nothing but good for you. Of course, tea is not a medicine, but a healthy drink which can help reduce blood fat, blood pressure, and blood sugar, and can even prevent cancer. It's good advice to drink more tea to stay healthy.
因此，饮茶可以对人身体健康有很好的作用，所以希望大家多喝茶。
For the Chinese, drinking tea has two uses: to quench one's thirst and meet the body's demand for water, and to appreciate tea on a spiritual level. Drinking tea is an art. 6 requirements are needed to appreciate the Chinese tea art. First, the best tea. Second, pure water. Third, an exquisite tea set. Fourth, superb tea brewing skills. Fifth, the correct tasting method. And finally, a tranquil environment. And that's the only way to really enjoy the taste of tea. The method of brewing oolong tea is the best in Chinese tea drinking. The well-known gongfu tea is brewed with oolong tea. There are 8 processes of brewing gongfu tea. The tea brewer uses poetic movements, graceful positions, and the best tea in spring water to express the pureness, gracefulness, politeness, and spirit of Chinese tea art. Pureness is to use pure and simple feelings to spread the fragrance of tea. Gracefulness means one can reach an ideal state while drinking tea. Politeness means it's a polite way to treat friends and a way of showing respect to tea growers. Nature gave us tea and tea growers gave us the culture. Harmony indicates that there exists a natural harmony between man and tea, people and nature. Iron Guanyin tea is dark green and the leaves are shaped like pearls. The colour of the brewed tea is orange and has a distinctive scent. A poem about it goes like this: a sip of Iron Guanyin tea and smell the fragrance in the cup. The perfect skill of brewing tea, the calm and peaceful state of mind, and the poetic atmosphere reflect the tea culture. Complicated tea brewing skill like Gongfu tea can be seen everywhere, because tea art as a culture exists in many people's everyday life, and it's because of this that the art of tea has been formed. Beautiful ladies know how to enjoy Gongfu tea, as do women in fishing boats. From these paintings of a fishing village, one can strongly sense the culture of tea. Either in rural areas or cities, on a trip or at leisure, a pot of tea brings humans and tea closer. On the other hand, every time you drink tea, you'll find a meaning so deep it'll seem to take you further away from tea. The Chinese think that it's better to drink tea in a tea house rather than at home. Traditional tea houses are places where people get together and are the same, tea drinkers. One can have a private appointment, but tea houses are full of groups of people discussing ideas. Tea houses are considered a social centre, where friends can gather around a table to discuss whatever they like. Tea drinkers can sit back and smell the tea's fragrance and ponder the customs of the tea culture. Today, new-style tea houses are attracting the attention of many tea drinkers. People can drink well-brewed tea in Western-style buildings. Girls in traditional costumes are playing ancient instruments and singing in low voices. This trend of combining Chinese and Western styles makes many tea drinkers reluctant to leave. China is a vast country with a wide variety of tea and methods of tea drinking. Bamboo chairs, wooden tables, tea bowls and paintings create a unique tea house atmosphere. This is the simple and casual style of any tea house found in Sichuan. Tea drinkers and opera lovers can often be found singing local operas in the tea house. Even at stadiums and gyms, people can drink tea while working out or meeting friends. Basically speaking, tea is the common people's culture. Both tea growers and city dwellers have their own views on tea and tea culture. When you drink tea, you should have a tea set. In China, tea sets have developed along with tea over thousands of years. The most famous Chinese tea sets are made of porcelain and purple clay. They are simple and elegant and keep the original flavour of tea. To appreciate tea sets is to enjoy both the Chinese culture and its arts tradition. Some ancient tea sets have become collector's items, valued for their design and quality. Most sets are still used for brewing tea. Different teapots reflect the different ideals of their creators. While drinking tea, you should also remember to appreciate the teapot. The more you admire the pot, the better the tea will taste.
很有味道，还能够品出人生的哲理来。
Life today is very busy for many people. After a hard day's work, tired people can gather in a tea house to relax, chat with friends and drink tea. Most tea houses don't close until early in the morning, and some even stay open around the clock. The Chinese tea culture's calm and honest atmosphere comforts those tired with the struggle of modern life. Many specialty tea shops have opened in China in recent years. There is a saying in China that you can do without rice for a day, but not without tea. In many tea-growing areas, tea-related activities are held every year, such as tea champion competitions and fairs focusing on tea. This is the champion of this year's tea competition. This is a tea auction. This is a regional tea fair. In China, tea plantations cover more than 1 million hectares, ranking first in the world. Tea output is 630,000 tonnes, coming in second, and tea exports rank third in the world. Chinese tea is shipped to over 100 countries and regions. The annual China Commodities Fair brings China and the rest of the world together and spreads the tea culture's spirit of peace and honesty around the planet. The story of tea is a major part of Chinese history, and the culture has grown alongside the Chinese culture. Tea is deeply integrated into the everyday lives of the people. In China, no matter where you come from, what colour your skin, or whether you know each other, you will become friends once you sit around a table and drink tea. And we want all friends visiting our tea-producing areas to come together over a fragrant cup of tea.